Welcome to Business Success Tips, where you learn to make more money in less time and have a lot more fun. I'm your host, Paul Sanneman. I'm founder of Contractor Staffing Source, where we help contractors build great teams. This is Steve Rozenberg of the Rozenberg Group. And I've met a lot of coaches, but I'm impressed. I mean, you're an airline pilot. You've done a lot of stuff, Steve. So maybe tell the audience your background a little bit.
Yeah, I'm kind of like an onion. I have layers to myself, I always say. My background is being an international airline pilot. I fly a Boeing 777 for United Airlines, been doing that for 27 years. My first business I built, well, one of the first businesses was buying real estate and bought so much real estate. I needed to put systems in my real estate, started putting systemization that I learned from being a pilot into my real estate portfolios, which eventually ended up becoming me building a property management company. We were the fastest growing management company in the state of Texas at one point. We had over 1,000 properties on multiple different markets. And I used the ideology of being an airline pilot, processes, checklist, systemization, everything that I'm taught by the airlines and Boeing into my business. We ended up selling that company to a venture capital firm, exited, and became a vice president. We had 10,000 properties at that point.
Wow.
And then after that, kind of, we'll say, did my time with the startup VC firm, and started going off on my own. And I just had a lot of entrepreneurs approach me asking me if I could show them how to scale my company or their company the way I did. I was in charge of sales and marketing for my business. My business partner, he was more the integrator in operations. But I scaled sales and marketing through my systems. And I realized that, the key to success is getting repetitious revenue over and over again, repeat buyers and referrals, and systematizing it so that you're making money all the time. And so I learned how to do that. And that's basically what I do now is I show people how to grow their businesses, how to kind of get out of their own head, as you know, one of the biggest challenges, and
Right.
how to grow and scale. And I speak all over the world. I'm fortunate enough that I'm asked to speak on many different platforms, many different entrepreneurs that all have the same problem, which is how do I build a business to create the life that I want? I think a lot of times, a lot of entrepreneurs, they get stuck in the middle of that entrepreneurial land and they forget
Mhm.
that they're doing this for a reason. And that reason is to have a better life. So whether you're a roofer, garage door, HVAC, property manager, real estate, dentist, at the end of the day, you're just using that as a strategy, as a tool, I should say a tactic, to get to an end goal, which is to have a better life. And a lot of times we forget about that better life part. We get identified as what we're doing, not where we're going. And so sometimes I have to help people understand what's the goal. I mean, you don't get in a car for Google Maps if you don't have two things, the start and the destination. You have to have both of those. How many times, I'm sure, as you know, speaking to business owners, they've got the start, but they have no idea the destination. And then they're shocked when they run out of gas somewhere on the highway of life and they have no idea what to do next. So that's the quick version, I should say, of what I do.
Okay. So I'm going to make this a little personal, Stephen. So why haven't you retired? You obviously, if you did all well, you don't need the money.
Yep.
So why didn't you just say, hey, I'm good and play golf and hang out? I mean, you don't need to do this. What motivated you to even have this company?
Well, two things. One thing is, especially being a pilot, people are saying like, "Oh, if you're so successful," I still fly a Boeing 777 all over the world for United
Right.
Airlines. I love what I do. I literally love. I get in a plane. I fly to Tokyo 2 times a month. I go to Buenos Aires. I go to Argentina. I go to Frankfurt. I love doing that. So that's the one thing. I don't think that just because you have a certain amount of zeros in the bank that you stop doing what you love doing. I don't have to need it. I don't. If it doesn't matter to me whether I work or not, I can actually enjoy it more going into these cities because I can. The second reason, it's a little personal, but I'm happy to share it with you. I had a son who recently passed away. He was 19 years old, and he passed away on a motorcycle. It was about a year and a half ago. And my son traveled to 19 countries. He owned his first rental property at 14 years old. And the only reason he had such an amazing life in his 19 years was because I had a business that was running and growing without me. And because of that, I was able to have a life with my son, my wife and I, with our son, to give that life. And I always, after he passed away, I thought, how many people live their whole lives? And if you listen, and I don't mean to take this conversation in a bad direction, but if somebody ever gets a knock on the door like we did at 10:30 at night, and they say, all of those memories that you thought you were going to create will never happen. They will never
Right.
happen now. I was fortunate enough that I was the one that said, if it was going to happen either way, I'm glad I did it. And I'm glad I was able to do it. I meet so many entrepreneurs that say one day, and that one day may never come. And I always think to myself, if I can be selfless in life and give back and help people, instead of saying one day, say, man, I'm glad that guy came into my life and helped me, say, I'm glad I did. And listen, I hope that never happens to anyone. It's the worst thing you could ever imagine. But if it does, my goal is to help people to stop saying the one day. And so that,
I think I have a client, it's interesting, who I think he doesn't want to be a contractor anymore, but his mother's parents, I'm not supporting of this, but they were in the Netherlands and they chose to commit suicide. And I went, whoa, right? And then like they did it, and it made him think, oh my God, I'm going to die, right? I mean, that confronted him with his immortality, because these people were in front of him and killed themselves, right? So
right.
to me, how do you get people to face that mortality, to say, look, you may be dead tomorrow, or your kid may be dead tomorrow. How do you make sure you make the most out of every day and live every day to its completeness, as opposed to waiting for it to happen? How do you get people to do that?
I think first of all, you have to walk the walk. I have to get up every day, and people, they see me on social media and they say, man, like, I don't know how you do it. I'm like, how do you not? Like, what, like you say this like I have an option. I mean, I'm not gonna crawl into a hole. So I think the first thing is you have to set the example. It's like, do I walk the walk? Am I that guy? Like, I am that guy. I talk about my son all the time. I talk about the challenges of going through something like this, business and personal and everything else. And I wish I could say I have a manual or a book on this. I don't. I set the precedent every day of my life. And I know, like, listen, you speak and you do a lot of stuff. So I'm sure you have people that know who you are and stuff. I go to events, I speak at conferences in different parts of the world. And you know how you have that look when someone's waiting to talk to you and they're just standing in the wings and they're just waiting. And I know what the conversation is going to be about. And I almost try to avoid it, but I know at some point I'm going to talk to this because he's been standing there. And I can't tell you how many times people will come up to me and they say, I know about your son. Like you have made me be a better father and a better purposeful person just watching you go through this. I wish I would, obviously this is not by design. I'm just being who I am. And it just, they just like, you're impacting lives without people even knowing who you are. And I'm thinking, okay, it sucks. Trust me, this is not something I'd want to wish on anyone, but at least I'm making a good impact for people to sit back. And like one guy said, man, I never had a passport until I heard your story. He's like, and I thought, what am I doing? I'm 58 years old and I've never been out of the country. So,
Right.
sometimes we get caught up, and sometimes I'm the one who pulls you up that we'll say, like in flying terms, to that 30,000-foot view and go, what are you doing with your life? Like, why are you doing this? Like, the definition of insanity is your day every day. You're doing those same
Right.
wrong things, hoping for a different result. So I'm the guy that says, listen, I have no grudge to bear or anything against what you're doing. I'm just looking at this going, does this make sense to you at 30,000 feet? And so I wish I could say I had some prolific idea or this grandiose.
Is there any
I
kind
don't.
of, how do you, getting faced to people that face mortality, for lack of a better term, is there a book you suggest? Is there something they go to? They talk, because I've been coaching for God knows 40 years, right? And one of the biggest problems I have isn't knowing what to do, but getting people to do what they know, right? I mean, you keep saying, my wife says, you said the same thing over 100 times. Like, yeah, but he hadn't done it yet.
Yeah.
So how do you get people to take action as opposed to just thinking it's a good idea?
I can only tell you what people tell me. And what people tell me, and I work with a lot of people in the trade industry, roofers, contractors, you name it. And they said, Steve, there's two, there's something that attracts them to me, right? They're like, there's something about you that attracts me. They go, number one, you're authentic, you're sincere, and you're consistent. And I hear that a lot in different variations. And I just hear people telling me like, they're like, you walk the walk. Like you're not some guru. Like, yeah, you're on these big stages, but there's many events that I'll be sitting there having whiskey and smoking cigars with the guys. And I'm like, oh, I got to get up in the morning. They're like, oh, why? I'm like, I'm the speaker. And they're like, so
Right.
I wish I had some sort of answer for you that was like this grandiose thing, but man, I hold myself to a higher standard than anyone else. And I tell people like, you know, and I don't use it as an example. I do it every day. I get up, I go through hard days, and I talk about it on social media. And I'm a big believer in trying to help as many people as we can. Listen, at some point, as you know, Paul, like you make enough money in life. Money's not the driver, right?
No.
You sell your business for zeros and zeros and zeros. That's very anticlimactic.
Right.
It's very, very sterile. And you realize there's more to life than that. And yes, you have the security of feeling okay. But after that, you have to start asking yourself, like, what am I doing here? Like, am I a giver or am I a taker in life? Like, who am I? What do I? And so I made a decision that I want to help people. Am I compensated for it? Yes, I get paid because I feel that, listen, they print more money. They don't print more time, as you and I both know.
Right.
So the one thing that I am protective of is my time. And I only want to be around people that want to
I
be
learned as
around
a
me.
coach, if people don't pay you, one way to get people to listen is to pay you because they value your time. I mean, it's
100%.
funny, as a coach for many years, I say I charge $500 an hour. People would listen. My friends, I give the advice for free and they wouldn't do anything. Right.
I was just gonna say, I have family members that they're like, "Oh, where are you off to now? You're going to Kuala
Right.
Lumpur." I'm like, "Yeah, these people pay me a lot of money, and you guys won't even listen to me." But it's
Right.
I get it. Yeah, I'm with you. So it's tough, but listen, if you asked why I do this, I'm not trying to say there's a greater purpose or anything. I'm just doing what I want to do. That I wish that there were more people that, because it's just a mindset shift. It's kind of like taking a camera lens and we're both looking at the same thing. Your lens is in focus and mine is out of focus. We see completely different things because of our focus. And so when I look at entrepreneurs, sometimes they're doing the right thing, but they're doing them in the wrong sequential order. So the law of sequence is not in order. And I tell them, you're doing the wrong thing over and over again. It's like you're taking a cake, you're putting frosting on it, and you're putting it in the oven. And you're like, wow, that didn't work. Let me put more frosting on it. Let me do it again. Let me do it again. I'm like, is there a possibility at some point in your life you're going to say, this just is never going to work? Putting frosting on the cake, no matter how many times and how much frosting, will never give you the cake that you want. Is that possible? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, then let's make, like, we have the recipe. We just have the wrong recipe. Let's go find the right recipe.
So Stephen, let's talk about the recipe. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm a contractor. I'm gonna give you a typical story. I'm a contractor. I may be a roofing contractor, remodeling contractor. I've been in it for 15 years. I'm making a living. If I leave the business, it will die. So I built a job. I don't own a business, right? Because if I leave, it will go away. So I'm sitting here. I've been doing this 15 years. I got 5 employees. I'm knocking down maybe $100,000, a couple $100,000 a year. And I'm stuck. I'm going, well, and I'm blaming, I can't find any good people. I can't find any good clients, and they don't realize they're the problem, right? So how do you advise these people that have been in the business for 10, 15 years, doing the same thing over and over again? They're making a living. They haven't got any freedom. They're still working 50 hours a week. Their marriage is marginal. They haven't seen their kids. You've heard the story, right? What do you do?
Yeah. I do these 2-day events in Houston. I do them every month. And this is a very common challenge, right? They have jobs. They don't have businesses. And they started off with an idea of having a business, but soon they had the employee mentality, and the employee mentality overtook the business mentality, and they went right back to what they know, which is being a good employee of their job. So I asked this question, and I'll say this, like, as a pilot, if you and I were going to go to Hawaii, we would have a flight plan to get to Hawaii. And everything on that flight would be predicated on us landing in Honolulu on runway 8 left and taxiing into parking gate number 3. Everything that we do, the amount of fuel, the routing, the alternates, the emergency escape routes, advisories, the winds aloft, everything is predicated on what? Not on where we're starting, but where we're finishing. And we are going to land at 8:53 in Honolulu on runway 8 left. That is our destination. You wouldn't get up in the plane with me. And I said, hey, Paul, like, today we're going to go to, I don't know, like Mexico or maybe Alaska or New York. I got a good gut feeling. I've never been to Hawaii. I don't know how to get there. I don't know how much fuel we have. I have no idea if something goes wrong. Do you want to give it a shot? No, you're gonna be like, no, I don't want to go up with you at all. You wouldn't risk your life getting in a plane without a flight plan, but you would start your business without a business plan. You have no idea your destination. You don't know your routing. You don't know your weather. You don't know how much fuel you need. You have no idea the capital it takes. You have nothing for the end destination. So of course you're going to crash and fail. That's the world of entrepreneurship is littered with the souls of people who had great ideas but no destination. So you've got to reverse engineer your life backwards. You got to slow down in order to speed up. You have to start with the end of what like when do you have the first thing I always ask people, I ask them two questions. What is your sale date? Now and then again, they go, oh, I'm not going to sell my business. That wasn't my question. Listening is important. Listening to what I said is important. I said sale date, meaning when is it a saleable asset? Meaning it's running on processes, procedures, and structure, and not on you. So it's not 5 or 10 years. It's not 5 or 10 million. It's June 1st, 2029. I have a $30 million company with 25% profit margins, and I'm working 3 hours a week. That, my friend, is a destination. Now we reverse everything, engineer backwards from your destination, and every decision you make, every hire that you get is all predicated on what? Where you're going. So if you said, hey, Steve, should I hire this salesperson? I'm going to say, show me how this connects to your destination. And when you hire people, now you have a vision. We are going to be a $30 million company with 25% profit margins, June 1st, 2029, and you will see me 3 hours a week. If you don't believe in what I'm doing, then maybe you should not come work for me, because that is my vision, and that's where everyone on this plane is going. So it's a matter of having the right vision, pinpointing, laser focused. Like we don't just say, hey, we're going to go west and we're going to try to land somewhere. We say we're landing on runway 8 left, going into gate number 3 at 8:53 a.m. That's a destination. So the reason people fail is they're just driving around their neighborhood. They've never even left their subdivision, and they have no idea where they're going, what they're doing.
See, this makes an important point. So I remember when I was coaching a couple of years ago, example, and I was sitting down with a guy trying to develop a business plan, right? And I said, you don't appreciate what we're doing. And he said, no, I took off work to do this, right? So
my point exactly.
Like, so, it's like, how do you convert, I'm going to call the artisan, the guy who's a plumber, a contractor, whatever, into an entrepreneur? Because it's a totally different mindset. And sometimes people don't even like entrepreneurs because they say they're all rich, they're screwing everybody, they don't care about humanity, and they give Bezos and in-laws a bunch of examples. So they've got a personal prejudice against getting rich. So how do you take that transition from a skilled craftsman to an entrepreneur? How do you help make that leap?
Well, listen, as you and I know, it's the 5 inches between their ears, right? That's a mental shift as to, are they being the business owner or are they being the business manager? Are they being the operator? And what do they want? My first question is listen, I cannot be the one that gets up every day, that puts out fires, that deals with stuff, that has the vision. Like, you have to want it more than me, right? And at the end of the day, I don't mean to be rude, but the world needs ditch diggers. The world needs people that are happy with jobs. And so I tell people, like, when you become a business owner, or your perception of a business owner, you have the biggest responsibility of everyone, because you have people working for you, and you're expecting them to do their jobs, right? You're expecting them to show up and do what they got to do, whatever level, but they're expecting you to do your job. They're expecting you to grow the business. Think bigger. So it goes both ways. And if you are not, it's the yin and yang. So that gets into a mindset challenge of them having limiting beliefs. And listen, I can't say, you know as well as I do, Paul, like, I can't say one day, like, you're a business owner, congratulations, go get them. It's like going to the gym. You don't go to the gym one time and go, hey, congratulations, you're in the best shape in the world. It's repetition. So
what keeps people stuck for 20? I mean, I've done this, God knows, like 40 years. What you think keeps people stuck not making that transition? They don't know how, they don't have reason to do it for some reason. What keeps them stuck?
It's their imposter syndrome, that they don't think they deserve to actually be business owners. So they don't even think that they should be in the room with business owners. Number one, that's an identity challenge. We are taught as children to be what? Employees. That's what we go to school
Right.
for. We don't go to school to be
Right.
entrepreneurs. We go to school to be employees. So for you to all of a sudden, the challenge is when you shift from saying I'm an employee to I'm going to start my own gig. I'm going to go hammer nails for myself. You still have the employee mindset and you're running away from the life that you don't want. As you know, we have our reticular activating
Right.
system, or our RAS.
Right.
And if we're focused, whatever we're focused on expands. So when I ask people, like, why did you become an entrepreneur? And they'll say, I didn't want to be told what to do. I don't want a 9 to 5. I don't want this. I don't want that. I'm like, how's that
Right.
working for you? They're like, it's not. I'm like, what? And I asked them, I go, what was my question? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, my question was, why did you become an entrepreneur? All you told me were all the things that you don't want. And guess what happens? When you focus on what you want or don't want, that expands. So
Goes up, right?
you are getting exactly what you wanted. I go, so how's that working for you? It sucks. I'm working freaking 15 hours a day. I have no money. I have no time. I'm like, that's because that's what you focus on. So it has to, you have to re-rack their thinking to get them to understand, like, what does a business owner do? I tell them, like, what is the goal, right? First thing is what is the goal of the business? Like the date, the day, the month, the year. Once we have that goal, my question is, let's say they want to build a $10 million company. You have to be a $10 million CEO first to do $10 million actions to have a $10 million result. The B times 2 equals F.
I get it, right?
Yeah. And so my question is if you are thinking like a $50,000 employee, it doesn't matter what you do. You're always going to have who you are. And so if you're running away from, so I guess going back to your question, it's an identity shift. You have to learn to shift and give them permission.
You take people in Dallas for 2 days, Stephen, right? They come in hopefully as an employee and leave as an owner, whatever that looks like, right? So what magic happens in those 2 days that gets them to stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like an owner?
Well, first thing I have to do is I have to figure out where they're going. I literally, we asked them, like, what is your destination? Next question is how many times are you willing to fail to get there? And people don't talk about that. Like, what is your fail number? Walt Disney failed 302 times before he ever got his loan. I go, how many times are you willing to fail? I don't know that I have that in me. So we break down their business as to where you're going. How many times are you willing to fail? And are you the right person to even build this? Break them up into workshop groups. So it's not just me pontificating and speaking. This is a workshop where they're breaking out with people where we actually make their business plan. We sit down and create it. Then I ask them, like, what kind of metrics are you measuring your company with, right? As a pilot, everything we do is measured by instrument gauges, metrics. What are the metrics that are measuring your report card of your business? Are they the right ones? Who's looking at them? They're telling you a story. Then I start talking about all the mistakes that people make in marketing, right? Because they don't understand marketing. It's that gray voodoo area. Then all the mistakes they're making in sales. So we break down their business. I look at it, you may have a different perspective. A business is made up of 5 parts. You have marketing, makes the phone ring. Sales, they answer the phone and turn them into clients. Operations processes the order, and if operations does a good job, you will get a repeat customer and a referral. Accounting makes sure that everyone is paid, and leadership sits over the top. What I just described is an organization chart. And I think that you need 2 organization charts. And the reason I say 2 is you need one as a snapshot of where you are today, and one as to where you're going. And what does your business look like when you are a $30 million company with 30% profit margins and all that stuff? Because people believe what they see, not what they hear. So if I'm hiring someone, I say, hey, here's where we are right now. And here is this is our Google Maps. This is our starting point. This is our destination. And it's got to be very, very clear. The line in between is our strategy. We need to build out that strategy. A business is made up of 3 things: monetization, systemization, and duplication. Monetization, as we know, is sales and marketing. That is the life, that is the oxygen that we need to breathe.
Right.
Systemization is what I've learned through the airlines. It's how to systematize so that it runs without you. Duplication is where real money works, right? That's scaling your company, duplicating yourself, having training, indoctrination, all these other things, getting recurrent training, just like we do as pilots. But the biggest thing people miss, they always go for the middle leg. They always want to figure out what their product is and make it real pretty. But they miss the monetization side. They have no one even knows they exist. They just think of, I built it, they should come.
Right.
But that as you know, that doesn't work. You
Doesn't
have to
work too well.
focus.
No.
You have to focus. And then I go into disc profiling. Right person, right seat. A lot of times, as we know, it's the wrong person in the right seat or the right
Right. I
person
mean,
in the wrong
we've
seat.
hired 2,500 people and 95% have worked out because I understand that principle.
Exactly. So it's not. And my point is it's not magic. It is a recipe. I'm just showing them the recipe to succeed because I'm like, if you knew the recipe for success, you wouldn't be sitting in this seat right now. You
Right.
are all the people that come to my events. They're there for a reason. They have a problem. And they think that I can solve their problem. So let's look at your recipe and let me dissect it and figure out because look at someone who's a 1-year company is different than someone who's a 30-year company.
Right.
Different challenges. But at the end of the day, it's the same fundamentals. I don't care if you're Chevrolet, United Airlines, Frito-Lay, your company, my company, we all operate under those same 5 principles. We just look at you and I could step back. We're the smartest people in the room because it's not our business. You and I, when you were coaching, we could look at a business and go, well, clearly you're missing marketing. No one even knows you exist. That's where the train tracks are missing a section. The train is going to crash right there. But when you're in the heat of battle, when you're in the weeds, it's so hard to understand that. So I tell people, I'm the smartest person in your business because I'm not in your business. I'm 3 feet away. I have a different perspective and I have no skin in the game to tell you politically one way or the other. I'm just going to tell you where you're missing some logical steps.
Right. Now, your seminars only given only in person if you go to Dallas and have to do your thing? I mean, how do people get involved with you and what does that work like, Steve?
Yeah, so they're in Houston, not Dallas.
Okay.
And yes, that I do them in person because I think that listen, I tell people all the time, it's a 2-day event. If you can't get away from your business for 2 days, you need to get away for 2 days and come learn. If that is the challenge, then it's very clear. And the thing is listen, I get the whole online thing and everything. I get this, but there's something to be said with shaking hands with people, pressing skin on skin, having conversations, seeing people in the eye and kind of going, what is your challenge? And I've done them online and I don't feel like I am able to help as many people. And I tell people all the time, listen, I even do them like when I do events like this thing, I give away complimentary tickets for people that are watching this show. And I'm happy to do that for you, because if you need help, I don't need to make money off you to help you. I really don't. Like, I do this because I want to. And I think that more people need to give. I came from the airline industry. I got into this industry in a quote unquote professional is a little different than an airline professional, we'll just say. Different ethics, different morals. I do this. Listen, people say like, you could make so much money if you just charge. I could, but I don't want to. And I am in a position that I can do what I want to do. And so I just think that if I'm willing to commit my time, you can commit to getting on a plane, spending 2 days. And I think there's a lot to be said with being around other entrepreneurs. That whole, when people flying from all over the country, I keep it small. I only keep it to like 30 people at this event because it's a workshop. And I do it, and honestly, and to be a little selfish, Paul, I do this because it helps me with coping with the loss of my son. It really is something that is cathartic for me to help people. And they come up and they say, man, Steve, like, I needed this. Like, like you changed my life. And I tell them, you can bring your spouse, because if your spouse can win or lose based on your decisions, she needs to be involved in the conversation. Not saying she needs to be involved in the business, but you don't want to go home and she goes, why are you doing this? Well, you should have taken the time to be there.
How do people get involved? I mean, what do they go to your website? What are the mechanics? How do I do? I'm in. How do I get in?
You go to my website. It says speaking events. You click on that, and you should be able to navigate through there. They're always changing my website, so I don't know where it is, but it's somewhere on there. Should be easy in a perfect world. You just register. It's free. It's very simple. You register. I give them away. And I do this because I want to help. And then you just pick the dates that you want to come. So we've got the 2025 dates. I think we try to limit them to earlier. But again, you come, we feed you lunch. You spend 2 days with us. We have a nice happy hour after. Everybody gets to mix. I bring in local entrepreneurs that I know in my circle in Houston. So now you're getting around other people. And sometimes we're changing. It's about changing the environment. I think, listen.
So what you're saying, this is a free event to somebody? They don't have to pay a bunch of money to go?
Correct.
So to me, if you're listening to this podcast, you don't go, you're just stupid. I mean, it's like, come on, like, How hard can that be? Here's a guy who's successful. He's been successful. He says, come to my house. I'll give you 2 days, show you how to do it. And you're going, well, like there's the number one reason people don't time management, Steve, is no time, right? So,
Yep.
so
I agree.
So guys, you should go to this. And ladies, listen to this. It's like the universe is saying, okay, we're here. And if you're going, no, I'm not interested, that's bad. That's your bad. So thanks, Steve. I really appreciate you. This is amazing. I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. I'm glad I was here, and hopefully this was helpful for you and for the audience, and
Yeah.
hopefully they got some nuggets out of this.
Thanks, Steve.